so Megan, one of the most common inquiries we get through our bidding advice line is my horse is extremely overactive or fussy in the mouth, and the tongue is coming in and out, or the horse is drawing its tongue back up in the mouth and it's just not settling into the bit. What are your recommendations and what do you use on horses like this?
Well, again, that turtle top bit is just the best. There's no pressure on the tongue. I love that a lot, but again, in the egg butt or the D ring, again, they can't flick that around, and then combine that with a Michelin bridle as well. I think there's a really good combination there, and they just can settle into it. There's room and there's space for their tongue. Absolutely. I also like the boucher bits as well. I've got a few here. People think they've got a bit of leverage to them, but they actually, when they don't.
They don't.
When you use the bit ring, the cheek piece actually goes loose.
It does.
It just actually flicks out and goes boy.
There's more pole pressure in an egg butt than there is in a boucher or boucher.
Yeah, boucher,
if you look when you take contact in a boucher, the cheek pieces of your horse's bridle will bulge.
Yeah, so they're great, and again, people look at them and think, oh, they're quite thin, the horse won't like that, but the miler version, hold those ones for me.
Yes.
Version of it, it's just stable in their mouth, so it can't go any further than that. It can move with the tongue as well. Yes. They can roll the centre bit, and it sits like above their tongue, not on their tongue at all. Correct. And again, it's these tiny little sides to it, and that can be really, really nice for them. Yes. And there's so many types, so that's the miler one. Then Bomber do a lock-up snaffle one, again, so a bit like the miler, it can't go any further than this. Yes. And it's really, really beautifully shaped through here as well. Again, I find some horses again either like this or it's a bit too thin for them, and then if that's too thin, they go into the miler. But the blue metal, like sweet iron of these ones is really nice. Really they salivate and they kind of want to suck on them as well.
Exactly.
And this is one I bought a million years ago. It's copper, only the lozenge. Obviously can't use this in dressage because you can't have two metals. And the sweet iron, and they really salivate in that, but it's a normal sort of KK link in the middle. That will go the whole way. I use actually this probably more obviously for jumping, but it's more of a jumping bit I find as well. Because it makes the mouth a bit softer because of the two different metals in there, but you can use it as a schooling thing for dressage as well. So, and again, they all just hang above the tongue and are really, really nice.
Yes.
And then there's another little one which probably seems like it wouldn't be suitable, but I've got a really, really fussy horse that I go 2-star on, and he goes in the new shawl.
The Verbinden?
The Verbinden, I call it the inside out bit.
Yes, yes.
It looks like, oh my God, I can see it there. It looks like it sort of will stick in a little bit to them. However, he's been really difficult, tried a few of them, and he just still like flicked the bit around way too much, but he's lovely in the hand anyway, but it's more for the look that his mouth's not open for dressage. Like he's opened his mouth a little bit, but he wasn't resisting. He rides beautifully. Yes. Popped him in this and put a really big gel pad behind the top part of the bridle here, behind his jaw there, and he's really happy in that. Excellent. Really, really happy. I actually got the bomb one for him originally, and tried the tongue relief ones and everything. Didn't like any of them. Yes. And even the dentist said, oh, that would be a bit too strong for him, wouldn't it, sharp? And I said, oh, she's the one that he likes the most. You know, and because it's just so shaped, I think, and it's shaped off of his tongue.
Yes, so the Verbinden doesn't use any downward tongue pressure, so it's like it's like having a ported bit but having all the flexibility of having a jointed bit, so the horse can move it where it's comfortable, and it's easier and lighter to unlock resistance. You don't use any of your laterals either, so it is a brilliant bit. It's actually our top selling bit for dressage. Yeah, it's actually really, really nice. You know, you look at it first and you go, oh, it's inside out. Yes, I've bent this the wrong way. It must be wrong, it must be really sharp, but actually lots of them love it, absolutely love it. So he's been really good in that, we've been really happy. Then he goes in a Waterford to jump as well, so he's got that sort of mouth that he wants to play with everything, and he's beautiful in the hand then. So we always recommend horses that go really well in a Waterford. The Verbinden is the go-to dressage legal bit. There you go. I didn't even know that, so it happens, so it's just from playing with bits and seeing everything and watching the horse and feeling them, you finally get that right
mix some bits for them, combination.
Absolutely, and you know, resistance is a score that a lot of people struggle with, particularly when it comes to their horse's bits. So having that sort of, you know, acceptance is really, really important.
Important, and also the people are already aware that the horse's mouth can't be open, but it is allowed to be. Like the dressage judges are getting better now understanding if the mouth is open a bit, but there's no tension through the back, it's not, the mouth's not open because the back's tense, you know, it's just because that horse is just, that's why they go, they're light in the mouth, then you still got a contact, they're still engaged. That bit of opening doesn't mean you got to jam that nose band tighter.
Exactly.
You know, and it makes it worse, they then fight against it even harder.
They become claustrophobic and even more resistant to the hand, and you know, then they do start to tighten up over the back and not use their hind end properly.
Exactly, yeah.
So Megan, we'd love to know what you use on your young horses or horses that are just coming into work from the breakers.
Well, there's lots of bits we can use, obviously. We do tend to put a bit with the FM cheeks on them. This one is a sweet iron bit, again, so it makes them want to suck on it and salivate. It is a single joint, but it is shaped, you know, so I'm not personally a fan of the single jointed bits, but we can just start them with that, because it's sweet iron and it's got that curve there, and then move them on to other bits from there. So I have lots of different sweet irons here, one with a little French link in it, one with a KK link in it, or loose string ones. But again, the loose string right from the start can be a bit too much movement for them sometimes. So then we can start them, if I find that they feel too fussy in that, the D-ring miler is awesome. Again, it's got the little side cheeks on it, similar to our FM there, but again, it doesn't crank down like a nutcracker action of a single joint, and they can move the bit around to where they find it comfortable. So, and again, people think, oh, it's really thin, but they're just broken in. They don't want a great big thick bit in the mouth, like great big dummy in there, and it makes them unsettled and unhappy.
A bit that is too thick, that doesn't fit in the mouth, is far worse than a bit that is too thin and conceived to be sharp. So that's a really important point to remember when you're breaking in your young horse.
Very, very important. Which is a bit why I like with the nave bits, because they come thin in the centre as well as the tongue. It just is nicer for them, as opposed to, like, the truss bit is great, but sometimes horses find the truss bit, you know, it's got that tongue really thick, it's a bit thick for them, you know, which is why the bomber flexible one is a great alternative now for the dressage. Really excited to hear that.
We can get the bomber flexible mullen made in any thickness as well, so it's really customisable, which is really awesome.
That's fantastic. I didn't even know that. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. But again, we put the nave bits on the ones which are really sensitive, and nave bit, and then a cavesson to start with, a loose cavesson on them, not tighten their teeth, not to mickle them, to shut them the chin, it's a cavesson, and just let them find their way around the bit, you know.
Keep it simple, really.
Very simple. Let the tongue go where it wants to go, and I let the bit be a little bit lower than you would normally put it in their mouth, so they can hang there and they can flick it around.
They can pick it up then and learn to take contact. That's a really, really good tip.
Yeah, really, really, really nice. They are much happier as well. Much happier, but definitely don't want to be tighten their noses down and no. And even if they're fussy and playing with it, you give them time, you know, and give them time to learn how to move their hindquarters around, push forward, and then one day after a couple of months, they're like into the hand. You're like, oh, that was nice, rather than trying to force it from the front first. But again, the turtle bit is really good too for them. But again, if you find there's too much movement and they're really flicking it, then we go to a mullen mouth with the D-ring with the miler, or a nave bit, or that bottom bit where it's really stable in the mouth, so they're not flicking it too much. There is a point where they can't flick it around too much and chat their head. You want it to be really stable. So you got to sort of, if you're confused about that, then you just ask your coach or find someone who's had experience with that to decide whether it's time to change to a really, really soft bit, or you just put it in and try it. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the things that we think aren't going to work, your horse absolutely loves. So it's really important to have an open mind and try those bits that you wouldn't normally try, and just see if it makes a difference.
100%.